Welcome to the Retro 21 Studios podcast. I'm your host, M Squared. Today, I'm joined with Ralph Beaudouin of GameChanger Analytics. How are you today, Ralph?
Good, Micah. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really happy that you had an opportunity to join the podcast. A couple weeks ago, we met with your business partner, Toy Cook,
Yes.
Super Bowl 29 champion, and he talked a lot about GameChanger Analytics. And so we're really excited to meet with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's dive right into GameChanger Analytics.
Sure. I'm a patented circuit designer, been designing for over 2 decades now. As a chip designer, analog mixed signal to be exact, emphasis with data converters. And prior to starting GameChanger Analytics, my most recent job was designing chips for DNA sequencing. 2.5 years ago, started working with GameChanger Analytics full time. We are an IoT company providing data for performance and injury prevention for athletes. When we say athletes, is both sports athletes as well as industrial athletes. The idea is to increase performance and increase availability. And through our detailed analysis, we can help in both areas.
Ralph, what was the inspiration behind the idea? It sounds fantastic. How did it come about?
No, that's a great question. So I have 2 boys who are athletic. One in particular aspires to be a professional soccer player. So the intention was to help him in his journey. In terms of with soccer, it involves a lot of technique as well as understanding of the game, strategy, formations. And with the sensors that we've developed, we can help him and others in both of these areas.
That's great. Yeah, I have a son and daughter as well. My son is heavily involved in basketball. And at that age, he's around 12. There's all the issues around mechanics, and he's had some knee issues. So this sounds like something that we could use in our home.
Definitely. And we'd be glad to work with you within a couple of months.
Awesome. So where are you guys at with this? This sounds like a much needed technology, especially if you're talking about injury prevention. And I'm just thinking in terms of professional athletes, collegiate athletes. If we just focus on the professional side, there's a huge cost associated with injury mitigation and folks who are on injured reserve.
I completely agree with you, Michael. So if you look in the Premier League, for instance, they're having $1 billion in expenditures just for player contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And then an additional 30% for injuries. They're paying over $300 million a year to deal with injuries. So if we can help to mitigate that, we can help their bottom line and the overall team performance.
Wow, that's going to be a huge game changer. Hence, no pun intended. Okay, so that's the professional athlete side. You're talking about injury prevention. How about post-injury mitigation? Is there any benefits on that side of the fence? Like you incurred an injury, I have a bad strain or even a break as far as rehabilitation.
Absolutely. We'll be able to work with the physical therapists and the PM&R physicians to reduce the return to play protocols. In addition, we'll be able to monitor closely what the athletes are doing in terms of the recovery to make sure that the regimens have the efficacy that everyone is hoping for. If things need to be changed on the fly, they can be. The athletes can be monitored remotely as well. So you could look at them in therapy, outside of therapy, making sure they are doing the right things to help speed up the recovery time.
As you're describing the capabilities of your product, of these sensors, I'm just thinking so far beyond professional sports. I'm sure you're already there with respect to your roadmap. But when I spoke to Toy a couple weeks ago, I was thinking about my wife works on an aging study, and frailty is a topic. And there's some level of sensor. I don't know at what state it's at, but I think it's tracking basic movements and that sort of thing. But just the implications on that side of the fence as well, injury prevention in the elderly and the rehabilitative aspect, because there's so many falls and that sort of thing.
Definitely. That's something that we want to tap into. There are some barriers to entry. First, we have to confirm whether we need FDA compliance. So we'll be working with regulatory consultants to help us determine that. And then the bigger thing is, can we get this to be covered by insurance panels?
Mm-hmm.
So any type of CPT code generation that be required if a code does not already exist. So we'll be looking into that as well.
I want to employ or use your product as a use case. How would that play out? How would I come into using this product, and how would that work?
No, that sounds great. First of all, we definitely encourage working with a coach and or trainer.
Mm-hmm.
The athlete needs to focus on what they're doing so that they can perform from a technical point of view, and let the coach and trainer help the athlete to monitor what is being done.
Mm-hmm.
So the sensors would be placed. You wear compression garments, which many athletes are already wearing.
Right.
We want to make sure that we reduce the friction points as much as possible. And there'll be pockets on the garments that the sensors will go.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 10 on the body. They're the size of a silver dollar, very low profile, approximately 6 millimeters in thickness. And then we have shoe inserts as well.
Mm-hmm.
With the shoe inserts, you'll be able to measure the forces that you're applying into the ground. It can do static measurements as well. So if you want to monitor weight while you're doing dynamic exercises, you can do quick static measurements to see how your weight is. And this will give you information regarding your hydration level.
Mm-hmm.
During exercise, the only thing that should be changing is how much water is being released through perspiration and things like that. You're definitely not changing your mass while you're doing these exercises. So this will give us a good estimate on proper hydration, particularly where the weather can be brutal. Here in the U.S., playing soccer in Florida during the summer, that can be pretty tricky. We want to make sure that the athletes are properly hydrated. These are examples of data we can capture. Keep the athletes safe. That's what the most important thing is. For us, we have a general interest in seeing what human beings are capable of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And with how things are currently done with load management and things of that nature, people are just going to fall short because they're taken out of the game before they can really achieve these levels.
Wow.
So we feel that with accurate monitoring, we can help them achieve these levels without getting hurt.
This is incredible. So from a load stress perspective, say I'm an athlete, and whether in basketball or football, you're making those hard breaks and those moves. And occasionally you make that hard, crazy move just out of sheer necessity, and you pull something or something breaks. You're collecting that data as well?
Absolutely. And we'll be comparing it to your baselines to see if you're overdoing it, if you need to reel it back. And monitoring the sequence of events, we can use predictive AI to alert you prior to you going too far.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So the timing of all this is going to be extremely critical. And of course, there's lots of testing that we have to do to validate our claims. And we'll be working with third-party groups to do this validation. But these are the types of things that we aspire to.
Wow. So you talked about the predictive capabilities using AI. And of course, that brings in the various models and ways in which that data is collected, used, and tuned. From a biomechanics, physiology perspective, who are you working with that? Is that something that you guys have on your own, or is that one of the partnerships you mentioned?
Yeah, these will definitely be the partnerships. We have people that we're in discussions with: Ohio State University of Rochester. We have independent biomechanists who are working with. These are the types of relationships that we're establishing to make sure that we get it right.
I think Toy mentioned that there's a demo coming up. You mentioned there's 1,000 athletes, if I have that number right. There's
That's
athletes
correct.
Ready to go. Tell us more about that.
So the demo, we'll do a full body demo here in Palo Alto, October 27th. And I will be extending that invitation to you as well, Michael. It will be great to see you there. And then we'll kick off the pilot runs in November, December. We have interested partners in the Chicago Sky, WNBA representation. We also are working with professional soccer teams in Mexico, South America, and Europe.